Schus of our learning, we should have the basic English, panacea, and the Refuah Shleima for Yichel Nasim Ben Sarah. Okay, we're on Daf Mem Daled. Naftali, who's with you? Is that your grandson?
Yes, Baruch Hashem, this is Chaim.
Very nice, welcome. Okay. So Daf Mem Daled, Aleph, 7 lines from the top. Amalei Abaya L'Rabba. It's actually supposed to be L'Rabba. The Bach adjuster. So yeah, we've been discussing.
Make it big. So
We've been discussing the mitzvah of lulav all 7 days. We've been discussing if it's done on Shabbos. Well, in the Beis Hamikdash, apparently it was just done on Shabbos the first day. That's what it seems, right? The Arava was done on Shabbos only on the last day. And now we're discussing outside the Beis Hamikdash, we take the lulav every day, even though that was something that was just in the Beis Hamikdash, but it was a takana of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Amalei Abaya L'Rabba. Ma'ishna lulav d'avdina l'shiva zeich l'mikdash. Ma'ishna Rabba d'avdina l'shiva zeich l'mikdash. Ma'ishna means what's the difference? What's the difference to lulav? That we do it for 7 days to commemorate what was done in the Beis Hamikdash, and the Arava, which means taking the Hishana, we don't do 7 days. Zeich l'mikdash. I guess we only do Hishana Rabbah. Yeah. It's a little surprising, the Gemara's question, because I say Hishana is all 7 days. I guess the Gemara is not discussing that. I guess what it means is you say Hishanas with your lulav. You don't do any Arava symbolism. On Hishana Rabbah, you take the 5 Hishanas, whatever, you bang them up, wherever that's from. Maybe Gemara. But you don't have any symbolism of the mitzvah of Arava for 7 days. So Amalei, so Rabbah responds, you don't need to. You have a Hishana inside the lulav, 2 of them usually. And you're yaitz already. Amalei, says, but that's not a mitzvah of Arava. There's this distinct mitzvah of Arava, separate from a mitzvah of lulav. You're just taking the lulav. You're not doing. You have no commemoration of the Arava. The Gemara says, maybe you'll say that you pick it up, and then you pick it up again. You do it twice. So we don't have to give you a separate Arava, bound with a rubber band or something. No, you don't need that. You have the Arava in the lulav. You shake the lulav in the esrog, and then you do it again. Says, but no one does that. Yeah. And the fact that we take it during Hallel is not part of this discussion. Talking about just an independent taking the lulav just for the mitzvah of Arava, no one does that. Amar Svid Mishmei Rava, we have a different answer. Why? Our original question is, why aren't we commemorating the mitzvah of Arava that was done in the Beis Hamikdash? Amar Svid Mishmei Rava, lulav d'iraisa avdinan shiva zeich l'mikdash. Arava d'Rabbanan le'avdinan l'shiva zeich l'mikdash. The answer is that Arava is rabbinic. Lulav is d'iraisa. So if it's a d'iraisa, so we extend it outside the Beis Hamikdash. If it's a rabbinic law, then we just leave it. It was done in the Beis Hamikdash. We don't extend it to commemorate. It says Laman. Who says that Arava is rabbinic? Where do you get that from? Ilay Malabashal. We had this back on the Daf Lamedalet. We were discussing, are you allowed to use a Arava that comes from an area that didn't didn't grow by a stream. It grew on a different. It says Arvi Nachal. So it comes along Abishol. The Gemara says that the Rabbanan say Arvei Nachal. The Arvei, the plural, tells me that even if it's from a Sedei Abal or it comes from Harim or comes from other areas, that you're still Yaitza with such an Arava. You still fulfill the mitzvah with an Arava that didn't grow by a stream. That's the Arvei. Abishol comes along and says, what's the Arvei? The plural, Arvei Arava, the Arvei Nachal. He says, Ksiv Shtayim, Achas Lalulav Achas Lamik. So it's based on a pasuk. What are you telling me that the Arava is rabbinic? And that's why we don't have any commemoration for 7 days of the Arava outside the Beis Hamikdash. It's not rabbinic. Abishol says that it's biblical. Okay, so maybe there's a different opinion. Ila Rabbanan, maybe you'll follow the rabbi's opinion that say Arvei is not telling me that I have to take the mitzvah of Arava. Arvei was telling me that I can use an Arava that didn't grow by a river. What does that leave me with the mitzvah of Arava? No, it doesn't tell me anything about that. Maybe it's rabbinic. Either Rabbanan, but Hilchas HaGemirila. It's not rabbinic either. It's a tradition, a promotion. Allah Moshe Misinai. Damar Rabasi Mar B'Yechon Mishur Reb Nechaniah because Beis Chorson Esther Netias Rav V'Nis Kamayim Allah Moshe Misinai. Yeah, these things come in phrases of three. We have these statements. What's Allah Moshe Misinai? So we get like three at a time. So in this three examples of Allah Moshe Misinai, we have Esther Netias. Esther Netias was this interesting halacha about you're supposed to stop working the field prior to Shemitah because you're preparing the land for Shemitah. You're not supposed to do that. So a month before the Shemitah year, you were supposed to stop fixing the ground around the trees. However, if you have 10 saplings, you're allowed to fix the ground around the trees all the way up to Rosh Hashanah. Because they would die, they're young, they need extra care. So Esenetias, and that's Allah Moshe Misinai. Now it's just not just fixing the area around the trees, you're allowed to fix the entire land because you have 10 trees there. If you don't have 10 saplings, you don't have 10, then you're only allowed to fix the tree around the tree itself, not the whole field. That's one. Nisach HaMayim is the pouring of the water on Sukkot in the morning sacrifice. And then the Arava, taking the Arava in the Beis Hamikdash. What exactly they did, we'll have to see. But there was a mitzvah of Arava in the Beis Hamikdash. That's Allah Moshe Misinai. So what are you telling me? Back to the original question. That why don't we commemorate the Arava for 7 days? We said it's rabbinic. What are you telling me? It's rabbinic. It's not rabbinic. It's Allah Moshe Misinai. It's together with those other two. Esenetias and Nisach HaMayim. Elam Rav said, Mishmei Rava. You see, there's a difference between rabbinic and Allah Moshe Misinai. Rabbinic means that it was instituted later on. Allah Moshe Misinai is the oral law. Oral law and rabbinic law is not the same. Right? That's clear. Tersh Bal Peh, the oral law, the oral tradition doesn't necessarily have to be rabbinic. It could be rabbinic, and it's not the oral, and it's not part of the oral tradition. The rabbinic could be in later institutions. The rabbis tell me what was the tradition, but that's not their creation. They're just passing it on. So Allah Moshe Misinai is that it's passed on, but it comes from the from Sinai. It was the oral tradition. So it's not a rabbinic law. So that's considered a biblical law. So in some ways. Ella Marasin Shmid Rav Lulav Disli Ikirmana Torah Bigvulan Abdin Lashiva Zechel Mikdash. Rav Leslie Ikirmana Torah Bigvulan Abdin Lashiva Zechel Mikdash. So we modify the answer just a little bit, and it fits. The lulav has a basis from the Torah, that is the first day, not only in the Beis Hamikdash, everywhere. So therefore, we extended for 7 days because in the Beis Hamikdash it was 7 days. The Arava has no basis outside the Beis Hamikdash. It was never a mitzvah of Arava outside the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, we don't have it for 7 days. We just have one commemoration on the 7th day. Yeah. I'm not sure if what's happening is, yeah. So it comes out as we're extending the Iker Min HaTorah. We're extending the first day in order to commemorate the Beis Hamikdash, or is it that allows us? Is it coming from the Beis Hamikdash, or is it coming from the first day? I guess it doesn't matter. But we're getting the lulav for 7 days, and it's commemorating the Beis Hamikdash. Why do we do this and not Arava? Well, Arava we never had outside the Beis Hamikdash. Okay. Amar Rish Lakish. Yeah, I'm reading it as Rish Lakish, even though I see in the Rabbi Chananel that he wrote it as Rabbi Levi. I think I saw that. Rabbi Levi. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Could be Rabbi Levi. See, that's the problem with abbreviations. Kayanim Bali Mumen Nichnasin Beina Ulam Bala Mizbeach Kedei Latzis Barava. What happens is that there's 10 degrees of holiness. You know, the Kodesh HaKadoshim is the holiest. And then it works its way down. Now, Beina Ulam Bala Mizbeach is between the chamber, the front hall to the Heichal, which is in front of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Between that front wall and the Mizbeach, there's a small area. I forget how many amas was it, maybe 11 amas or something. Is it here? Yeah, yes.
It's 11 amas, but that's before the Kodesh, not the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
11 amas before the Kodesh, right? In front of the Ulam, between the Ulam and the Mizbeach was 11 amas. Were the stairs part of those 11 amas?
There's another 11 amas
of the stairs.
Between the Mizbeach. Yeah, no, that was that's 11 amas. Between the Mizbeach and the Ulam is 11, and then between the front of the Ulam to the Kodesh is another 11.
So the stairs must be included in those 11. So there was a walk.
Yeah, the bottom step, I think there was only like 1 amma between that step and the Mizbeach.
Oh wow, that's tight. So what happened here is that there was a procession that was done around the Mizbeach, and the problem is being a ulam v'lam Mizbeach, that area was not meant for kayanim that are not doing the service, which would include kayanim bali mumen, the kayan that has a blemish. Comes along Rish Lakish and says, look, this is a different sort of service. This is the Arava procession. We'll see exactly how it works. But a kayan balmum could do this. And that's the case. The kayan balmum can go min olam v'lam mizbeach. This would be his opportunity. Kedei latzis ba'Arava. Amli Rabbi Yochanan. Mi amra. Rabbi Yochanan says, who told you that? If it's Rish Lakish, it's very interesting. Because Rish Lakish learned by Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan like made him a Baal Tshuva. And then he promised him a sister to marry and everything. So who told you that? You learned from me. I never said that. So if it's Rabbi Levi, then there's a different source. Then it's a different sort of question. He says, Mi Amra. The Gemara asks on his question, Mi Amra. Who says it? But you Amr. Rabbi Yochanan said it. Where did he say that? Damar Abbas Yamar Rabbi Yechon Mishum Reb Nechoni Yeshbikas Bis. Charsanessen the Ties Reb Nisachamay Malach Mashim Sinai. I guess the original question, me Amra, is who says that this has to be done? Who says that this is an obligation? Who says it's an obligation on every person, maybe? Who says that everyone has to do this? So we say, well, it's Allah L'Mashim Sinai. I don't know what the Gemara was thinking. What do you mean, me, Amra? Who says that this has to be done? Yeah. Any comments? Does anyone have the English that has a comment there? I mean, I'm just asking, what was the Gemara understanding that the mitzvah was, if it's a mitzvah that has no obligation? Anyway, whatever the case is, the Gemara modifies it. It says, Elami Amr bin Atila, Dilma bezakifa. How do you know that there's a procession here? Maybe it was just arranged there, and one person sets it up, and it doesn't need to be a balmon. It could be someone else. It's not that everyone has to walk around, all the kayanim have to walk around. I guess that's what the Gemara was asking. He was saying that because he's a kayan, and there's a mitzvah now of mitzvah sarava, all the kayanim need to go in the circle and in the procession around the mizbeach. Rabbi Yochanan says, how do you know that that's how it was done? Maybe there was just an arava. There wasn't a procession. You put the arava on the side of the mizbeach, and that was it. That was the whole mitzvah. There was an arava on the side. It's not such a big ordeal, but it's similar to maybe raising the flag. Some places it's like a whole ceremony. They stood it up. Okay. Mi amra b'bal mumen dilma b'tmimim. And if that's the case, how do you know that the bal mumen would do it? Maybe it's just the people that don't have a mumen. How do you know? Yeah, how do you know that that's how it was done? Itmar. Okay. We don't have a resolution for that statement. And it's left as a sort of a question, is that really how it's done, that the Bali Mumen need to follow in that procession? Itmar Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Shua ben Levi. We have a discussion here of Amirayim, Rabbi Yochanan, Amirah in Eretz Yisrael, and Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Shua ben Levi is also an Amirah, although he is mentioned in the Brisa. B'chol Yoyim Basko Yetzis Me'achera, in the last parak of Pirkei Avos. But that's not a Mishnah, that's a Brisa. And Rabbi Shua ben Levi is an Amirah. Chad Amar Arava Yisod Neviim, v'Chad Amar Arava Minig Neviim. One of these doesn't say who says what. One said, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi, one of them said that the Arava was instituted by the prophets. The other one said that the Arava is a custom of the prophets. If it's instituted by the prophets, then that means that it came through them, through the prophets, not telepathy, but through their connection to the way they get prophecy, to the Eibishter. So they got this tradition, they got this influence that comes down and said, you should do this mitzvah of Arava. Yeah, prophecy. Other one is that it was just a minute, it was something that they did. What's the difference? Rashi tells us the difference is, we'll see in the next Gemara, on the next page also. The difference is, can they say a bracha on the mitzvah of Arava? Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu. I don't know. Lital Arava maybe. Okay, so there's this discussion. The Gemara says, Tistayim, let it be settled. To Rabbi Yochanan the Ahud Amar Yisod Neviim. That Rabbi Yochanan was the one that said that it was instituted by the prophets. More serious, more powerful. Amar Rabavo, I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yisod Neviim. Because Rabavo says the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that it's Yisod Neviim. Let it be settled. The Gemara says, yeah, this time you got it. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says it. Usually we prove it in a roundabout way and say, yeah, this looks like a good proof. Here we just come up with the statement. Rabbi Yochanan said it. Okay. Amalei Reb Zera le Reb Avo. Reb Zera says to Reb Avo. Reb Avo is the Talmud of Reb Yochanan. Reb Zera says, Miyam Reb Yochanan Hachi. Did Reb Yochanan say that it was established by the prophets? We said this already twice today, I think. Rabbi Yochanan says it's Allah Moshe Misinai. That means it comes from Moshe. It doesn't come from Chagi Zechariah Malachi. It comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. It goes way back. So look at what the Gemara says here. He's silent. The shtaimim is more than silent. That means like he's shocked. He doesn't know how to answer for a moment. And then afterwards he comes back with the response that you're right. It was Allah Moshe Messina. However, that tradition was lost. And then we got it back because the prophets instituted it. Where was the tradition lost? Well, when the Yidden went to Bavel, the Galus Bavel, they forgot some of the Torah. And when they came back, the prophets, Chagi Zechariah Malachi, those later prophets, they instituted that you should take that Rabbah. We have this in other places. The Gemara says, how can you say that it's from the prophets? It comes from much earlier. Or how can you say, we have the Beit Tagamunculus, remember? The Gemara Megillah, I think. Okay. The Gemara says, was the Torah really forgotten when they went to Bavel? Yeah, so two pshatim over here in this Gemara. One pshat is that Rabbi Yochanan was talking to his students. He said, "The L'chaim, you think the Torah is in Eretz Yisrael? It's not so. The L'chaim, it's theirs. The Torah is really in Bavel." Yeah. The Israeli yeshivas, they feel they're much bigger Talmidei Chachamim than America. They said, they told one Rosh Yeshiva, said he was getting into a taxi. So they were telling him that Rav Pam is the Chafetz Chaim of America. So he said, I'm the Chafetz Chaim of this taxi. What's America? Anyway, Rabbi Yochanan tells his Talmidim, you think that you have the Torah, it's, you really have it strong, you never lost, you were always in the same place, always in Eretz Yisrael. The truth is that the Torah is really in Bavel. What made him say this was Rav Kahana. Then the Baba Kama, Rav Kahana, there's this whole story with Rav Kahana, how he has to run away from Bavel. And Rav tells him, go to Eretz Yisrael and don't comment for 7 years. Anyway, in the end, he ends up answering a lot of Rabbi Yochanan's questions. And Rabbi Yochanan says that the Torah is in Bavel. See how great Rav Kahana is. Yeah, that's one shot over here. So which means, how could Rabbi Yochanan say that it was forgotten because they went to Bavel? Apparently, they have it even stronger than us. The other pshat I saw, the L'chain Amrei de L'haini. He's telling someone from Bavel that you say that it's yours. Not that he was telling people from Eretz Yisrael that you think it's yours, but it's really that. No, he's telling someone from Bavel that what you say is correct. That here's a pshat over here. The L'chain Amri, the L'haini, that you say that it was instituted by the rabbis, not that it's a Rabbanan. It's not Yesod Nevi'im. It's a more direct question over here. We say, did Rabbi Yochanan really say that it was Yesod Nevi'im? No, it's only a derabana. That's the way Rabbi Hanan looks at it. Anyway, the Gemara answers, and we'll have two pshatim what the Gemara is going to be answering yet. Where it says like kasha, kan b'mikdash, kan b'gvulan. Okay, we had different statements from Rabbi Hanan. Here's the way to resolve it. In the base of Mikdash, we said it's halach l'maishem misinai. B'gvulan, it's Yisayid Nevi'im, or it's Derabanan, or whatever, B'gvulan, outside the base of Mikdash. Whatever we're doing outside the base of Mikdash, I guess, Ishan Rabbah, that's either rabbinic according to Rabbi Hananel, it's halach l'maishem misinai. It's not a halach l'maishem misinai. In the base of Mikdash, it's halach l'maishem misinai. It's either a Yisayid Nevi'im or a Minig Nevi'im. It's either instituted by the prophets or a custom of the prophets.
I was told once that at least one of these minhagim we follow on Sukkot is a minhag avoteinu.
Yeah.
Which is, how would that be classified?
That would be the Minig Nevi'im.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a really interesting Taisvus here. Goes all the way down. You see this Taisvus on the side of Mem Dalet Amud Beis, which discusses if you can say halal, if you can say a bracha on halal on Rosh Chodesh. Yeah, the minig in Lubavitch, the old minig in Lubavitch, was that the Chazan says halal, Chazan says the bracha on halal, and everyone answers amen and recites halal. Even in the heading in the Siddur, I think it says that. It says that the Chazan is mighty everyone to bracha. Yeah, and in Rhode Island, I think Rabbi Laufer, the Shliach, I think would say the Chazan will be mighty everyone. He would make like a statement, an announcement. Chazan would be mighty everyone with the bracha. And then everyone would just start Hallelujah. After he would say Amen, Hallelujah. Yeah. So it was. And then someone wrote a sefer about Minhagi Rosh Chodesh. You put in there that the Rebbe says that you can chaparain a bracha, an extra bracha quietly. And then the minhag changed. And then everyone starts saying their own bracha. Now, but it's questionable if that's really what was meant by that. If it was meant that the Rebbe did that, or it meant that everyone's supposed to do that. Is
that Gadasi's book you're referring to?
No, referring to Rabbi Rappaport.
Oh, Gadasi brings down the same thing.
Oh,
I don't know if that's.
No, there was a blue book Rabbi Rappaport wrote. He lived in England. I don't know where he lives now. Anyway, he wrote in there, and that's how it was. Yeah. You go to show. I don't even know if the Chazan knows that there's a minig, that he's mighty everyone with the bracha, because it's switched. That, if it's an older person that's davening for them, but he remembers but a young boy probably never even saw that the Chazan says the bracha and everyone else says. Okay. How do we get into that? Yeah, we're getting it. Taisus gets into this because there's a question if you can say if it's a minig, then you don't say a bracha on a minig. You can't say v'tzivanu on a minig. If it's Yisayid Nevi'im, then you can say a bracha. Yeah. Doesn't affect, it's interesting because I'm making it like the Chazan says, no one says. According to this, Taisus, no one says the bracha. Not the Chazan says it. Yeah. Okay. Amar Abami. A rava tzricha shia, a rava needs a certain size. It can only be taken alone. You can't have other things with it. Dr. Stein, who is that a picture?
That's the famous, rest in peace, Leonard Cohen, who wrote his variation of Hallel that is world famous. So I'm saying, let's say that the Cohen people don't know who says Hallel, who says the bracha. So people don't even know what the right Hallelujah is.
I got it. Okay. This is like an association game. So he says three things. One is that the Arava needs to be taken alone. Second, you can't be yaitze with the lulav. I'm sorry. The first one was that it needs a shear. The second one that it needs to be taken alone, and the third one is that you can't be yaitze in adam yaitze dechavasa barav shabbalulav. So the Gemara says 1 second. Kiven damer mar einani tells help with niatma pshita dein adam yaitze dechavasa einani yaitze barav shabbalulav. If you tell me that it needs to be taken alone, einani tells help with niatma can only be taken alone, then of course you can't take it with the lulav. That's a double. You just repeated yourself. It's the same thing. Ma'al the time of the Gemara answers. I could have thought Hani milhechad layagbe v'hadar agbe, aval agbe v'hadar agbe malay. Could have thought. Said it needs to be taken independently. It would mean that not together with the mitzvah lulav. But if I lift it up a second time, I could be yaitza. Kamashman that no. It needs to be taken mamish independently, without the lulav. Yeah. Remember, I asked the shaila. I don't remember the answer I got. It was Heshana Rabbah. I didn't have enough Heshanas. But in the shul, everyone had left the lulav. I didn't want to use a geklapta Heshana. Someone's already banged Heshana. But I saw some lulavim around. And the lulavim have Heshanas in it. So could I take out 2 from this one, 2 from that one, and 1 from another one, and I'll have Heshanas. Anyway, I remember I asked Rav, I don't remember what he told me, but from this Gemara, it's whatever he told me is probably associated with the commentary on this Gemara. Because Ein Adam Yidei Chavasei Be'arava Shabbalulav, we're learning it that it's because it's still bound with the lulav. But maybe once it's removed from the lulav, that would be fine. Yeah. Rav Chizda, Amar Rab Yitzchak, Adam Yetzi Dechavasi Barav Shabbalulav. He says, no, you could be Yetzi with the Rav in the lulav. The Kama Shiura, we mentioned, Rabami says that our Rav needs a shear. What is the shear that our Rav needs? Amar Rab Nachman Gimel Badei Alen Lachen. 3 stalks that have moist leaves on it, fresh leaves. Rav Shesha says, even 1 stalk, 1 leaf. The Gemara's understanding that the leaf could be separated from the stalk. Really, you just take a leaf? That's we never saw anyone doing that. But it means it's 1 stalk that still has a leaf. As long as it has 1 leaf on the stalk, but not that it's separated the leaf from the stalk. Okay. Amar Evu. Evu is the father of Rav. Rav had 4 uncles. The most famous is Reb Chia. It's his father's brother, half brother. Yeah, they share the same father. The father's name was Abba. In other words, Rav's grandfather was Abba. Abba has Evu, which is the father of Rav. He has Chana, which is the father of Rabba Bar Chana and the grandfather of Rabba Bar Chana. And then he had some others I don't remember. And then he had Chia, Reb Chia. Now, Evu, Rav's father, says, Havikim Nekamei Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. I was there in the early days. I was there by Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. Now, Rabbi Tzadok was Bisman Abayis, by the destruction. He was the one that fasted for 40 years. And Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai asked Vespasian for doctors. His son is Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. So Evu says, I was by Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. V'aisiu gavra Arava kamei. And someone came in with an Arava. So, Shakel, Chavet, V'loi Baruch. He took the Arava, he banged it. Rashi says it doesn't mean he banged it. Rashi says he shook it. He shook it. And Kasavar, why? And he didn't say a bracha, that's the big deal. Kasavar, he holds minig neviyamu. It's a custom of the prophets. That's why he didn't say a bracha. So Rashi got before that you don't say a bracha if it's just a custom. No bracha on a custom. Yeah. This Tosfos has a lot of interesting things about saying brachas on second day Yom Tov. Because there are customs there. It's a custom that we keep the second day Yom Tov. Nevertheless, we're saying brachas. So yeah, that's this Tosfos over here. Evu b'chizkiya b'nei brate b'Rav. Now Rav, his father, Bras is a daughter. B'nei brate, the sons of his daughter. Rav's father is Evu, and Rav's grandson is also Evu, and he has another grandson, Chizkiya. I saw a Rav l'kami de Rav. They bring in a Rav in front of Rav, there's grandchildren. Chavet v'lei barach, k'sav minig neviim. Rav also holds like that. It's just a custom, no bracha. Amar Evu. Evu says, this is probably coming in just because we mentioned Evu, so we're bringing this in. I became the Kamei de Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. I was in front of Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. Also, Kamei Gabra. Someone comes in. Amalei crisisly. He says, I own cities. Wealthy man. Karmayesli. I own vineyards. Zaysisli. I have olive groves. The people from my city, which I own the city, so it probably means he owns the people too. Yeah, it sounds like that's how it was in Russia, no? So the people from my city come and they work the soil around the roots of the vineyards and the olive trees. And for what they do around the vineyards. And in order to pay them, I let them take the olives. That's their payment. They work the field, they take the olives. Is that acceptable or not acceptable? Now, what's the problem? The problem is that it's Shemitah. Now, the olives are hefker. He's using the olives to pay his workers. That means that he's using them in exchange for work. You're not supposed to be selling produce. He's taking from the poor that could be taking them. He's taking them and he's using them to pay his workers. Amalei Layarech. Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok, it was Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok says it's not appropriate. Shouldn't be doing that. He leaves. He leaves and he just runs right out. He run right out. He's like insulted, or something, like upset with the answer. That's not what happened. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok says, "Kadai havesi dairi ba'ara hadein mem shnin." I lived here for already 40 years. And I never met anyone that's such an upright person as this person. This is like the biggest Yireh Shamayim that I ever met in all 40 years. Hadarasi, the person comes back. Amalei, my mi'avid. So what should I do? What should I do? So Amalei, afker zeisa lachashuchya, betain prita lakashkushi kram. You have to make the olives hefker. And then you have to pay your workers separately. Okay. What was the big deal? Why did this person such a big Yireh Shamayim? I mean, yeah. I was at a Fabrengen once in Australia. And it was the old Mr. New. It was the Yassel Gutnick's father-in-law. And the Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Cohen. And this Mr. New was talking about how someone had gone bankrupt and he ended up paying back everyone, even though he declared bankruptcy. He still paid back all the debts because he felt that was the right thing to do. So this Rabbi Khan was saying, why are you saying this? This is because he's a good person, so that's something special. He did the right thing. That's nothing special about doing the right thing. That's what he was supposed to do. Anyway, here, what's the big deal? He asked the rabbi a shaila. The rabbi says it's a problem. He runs out. He comes back. He said, "What's the big deal? Why are you saying it's the biggest Yiras Shamayim?" Yeah, so the Mefarshim say that he didn't wait for the answer to figure out what he's supposed to do. He ran out right away and he wanted to make sure to stop. Maybe someone was going to eat an olive. The first thing he had to do is stop them. I'll come back with how to resolve this, but first to stop. That he was afraid for that moment that something is gonna go wrong. Okay. Marno asks, the Kishkushim Mishari, are they allowed to be working the field anyway? There's a problem here with Shemitah. They shouldn't be doing any work in the field. That the Shvius, you leave it go, and what does Natashta mean? It means you leave it. Tishmetana milakashkish, you leave it from working around the roots, to hoe around the roots. V'natashta milasakal, and you leave it from taking away stones out of the field. You can't prepare the field by removing stones from the field. The Hebrew word skila means to stone, and sakel means to remove stone. It means the same, the opposite. Sometimes in Hebrew it works like that. So why was they allowed to do this work anyway? Forget about how he was allowed to pay them. They're not allowed to be doing that. Amar Avukah Bar Chama, Trekish Kushiabi. Says there's two types of working around the roots. Chad Sastumi Pili. V'chad Avrui Ilani. Avrui Ilani also. Sastumi Pili is shari. Sastumi Pili is covering over cracks. That means that if the roots get exposed, you need to put soil over those roots or else the trees will die. Then there's the other part, there's Avrui Ilani, making the trees stronger, healthier, making them grow stronger. That you're not allowed to do. So it's sort of like you're only allowed to do emergency work on Shemitah. If the tree is going to die, you're allowed to help it shouldn't die. But you're not allowed to make improvements. Just sustain it. Okay. Amar Eva Mishum Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. You have another statement over here. Evu says in the name of Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok, Al Yehalech Adam ba'arvi Shabbos Yitzim Migimel Parsais. Don't go more than 3 parsais. A parsa is 4,000 amas, I think. Parsa is 4 mil. And a mil is 2,000 amas. So that would mean 4 mil, 2,000 amas. A parsa is 8,000 amas. And don't go 3 parsais. Don't go 24,000 amas on a Friday. Yeah, a person can walk in a day 10 parsais. It'll be a third of the day. Don't walk a third of a day on Friday. Why not? You're going to come to home. Possibly they weren't expecting you. You'll get there before Shabbos. Be looking for something to eat. There'll be nothing to eat. They didn't prepare enough food. They didn't know you were coming. And you'll be upset with them. There's nothing to eat. What? You didn't prepare. So because of that, on Friday, don't travel. You won't be able to. You see, if it's a weekday, so you'll go put something on, and go out to the garden. You'll take a vegetable. You'll put it in the oven. But it's Shabbos. You can't do anything. So you're just going to be hungry. Rav Kana says that's only if you're going home. You're relying on them that there's going to be food. But if you're going to an inn, you know there's no food for you at the inn, and you're only going to eat what you have in your backpack, in your what you're holding in your hand. So that's that you're not expecting anything, so that's fine. Ikadamri, others said this a little different. They said, this is even if you're going home. But for sure, if you're going to an inn, you shouldn't travel on Friday. Rav Kana. Rav Kana says, with me, there was a story. I couldn't even find Casa de Harsana is like sardines. I didn't even find sardines. There was nothing for me to eat. Yeah. I told you the story. Said Rabbi Levitinsky, Alav Shalom, he was a counselor by Rabbi Kort 60 years ago. So he asked Rabbi Kort, what's it like on Shlichus? So Rabbi Kort told him, Baruch Hashem, it's fine. So far, a Shabbos hasn't gone by that I wasn't able to afford sardines. Anyway. Okay. Mitzvahs lulav ketzad. Yeah, someone said that, I forget who, but someone went to the Rebbe, told him what's going on with Rabbi Kort 60 years ago, that he mamish had nothing in the house to eat. Said the Rebbe cried. Yeah. Okay. Mitzvahs lulav ketzad. What's going on here is we're saying, how did they do the lulav on Shabbos? So Friday, they brought it to the Beis Hamikdash, and it says they put it on these platforms. Tani Tana Kamed Rav Nachman. Tana taught in front of Rav Nachman. Yeah, on the side it's Kamed Rav Yehuda. Okay. Seijin al Gabi Itzba. He said, instead of saying al Gav, he said al Gag. They put it on the roof of the platform. Amar Leis, Rav Nachman says, what is he trying to dry it out? Ella ema al Gav Itzba. You put it on top of the platform, not on the roof of the platform. Apparently, there was a platform that was covered by a roof. If you put it on the roof of it, then you put it in the sun. If you put it on the platform, you put it underneath the roof. That this platform was surrounding, it actually had, it was like a colonnade. It had two columns with of two pillars, two columns of pillars, two rows of pillars, and there were two levels of this. There was one outside, and then there was another one inside. Yeah, that's just how the Gemara concludes. We're talking about the Itztaba. Where was this Itztaba? Where Yitzi? Where would this have been? Around the Harabayas? Encircling the Beis Hamikdash in the Harabayas? The Stav?
Which specific one are you talking about?
Where it's talking about an Itztaba. I think it's referring to, what was it around the Chel? What was in the Chel? Nothing? Was it just the empty area?
So around the Harabayas, you had the double portico.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about. The double portico.
So that was double, and then on the southern side, you had the royal portico, which was actually four columns wide.
So the double portico is around the Beis Hamikdash or around the Harabayas?
That's around the Harabayas.
It's on the inside of the wall.
Okay, so that's, yeah, with inside of the wall. Then with inside the Azara, you also had, I think, a single one.
Right.
That was just for rain protection. And then eventually permanently in the Ezras Nashim, you also had the colonnade, but that was for the balcony.
Yeah, so this would be, they kept the Lulavim around the double portico that was around encircling the Harabayas.
Yeah, that's for the Lulavim. That was there.
Okay, I got Shabbos, everyone. Good Erev Shabbos.
And I just a possible correction, instead of 11 amas, it might have been 22 amas. But according to those that extend, Rambam says, I think that the steps from the ulam, each step was a half an amma up and a half an amma deep. But the Pharisee Yisrael or whatever says that the sum of the steps, like if you went up 3 steps, then each one had a wider platform. That one ended up with 1 amma, I think, left between the bottom step and the mizbeach. So for that one, there's only 1 amma left. But I don't recall. But if that's the case, then maybe it's 22 ammas, 11 and 11.
Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Okay, good Shabbos.
Okay, good Shabbos, everyone.
Rabbi Smith.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Yeah.
You mentioned Rommel Levitansky.
Yeah.
An interesting story. He has a son who's here in a small city in Ukraine, Sumy. And when his father was Nifter, he asked the Rav, "What should I do? I can't get a minyan together. How am I supposed? What am I supposed to do? I can't say Kaddish." And he said, "For the next year, put tefillin on 10 people every day." Interesting, huh?
Who is that? Which son is that? Is that Yechiel Shlomo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where is he? What's the name of the city? I thought he was like in Kharkov or something.
I think it's spelled Sumy, Sumi.
So it must be a small city.
I don't know. I've never been there.
The city that you're in now is what?
The city I'm in now is Chernigov, which is
Chernigov, right?
300,000 plus people.
Right. So the Peretz Chaim city.
Yeah. But my daughter and her family, they're good friends with the Levitanskys in Sumy, and I think it's a 6-hour drive, and they think nothing of going there for Shabbos.
Oh boy. 3 parsais. Well, they prepare.
Okay, thank you. Good Shabbos.
Okay. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, and thank you very much. And I probably should have said in my model over here, you could see the brown that's surrounding. That's what it is.
Yeah, beautiful. To us, it looks red. Maybe that's my
on the left. On the left side is red. On the
left side it's red, and around it's brown. You're right. Yeah. It's
a little bit small to see, but
yeah, beautiful.
Bring it at some point. All right, Mishkayach, Ber Shabbos.
Okay, Ber Shabbos. Okay.
Do you have any quick Hasidic insights on this?
To think about what the symbolism is.
Yeah.
We said to shake it. We said chibuk means to shake. Somehow, Kabbalistically, it turned into banging. One thing is that the Rava represents the lips.
Right.
And somehow it's associated with rectifying our speech, whether Lashon Hara or the other way, or more Torah. How all of this came in. This all came in because Ava, we were thanked from Ava.
Right, Ava has this dispute. Ava.
So, I don't know if this is Chassidus, but the lesson from this person that he didn't wait for to have it fully resolved.
Right.
He was ready to just get it stopped, and then we'll figure out later. That takes a big concern, a big big Yiras Shamayim. Otherwise, they'll say, well, I can't do anything until I can fix the whole problem. So let me just wait and ask the next question. So what should I do instead? And then he would have told him, what you do is you do it like this. But meanwhile, someone might have eaten something.
Right.
So it's like a value that's given to to every moment.
Wait, I have a case like that. In the Everglades, there was a case where they violated the permits. The guys who were digging wells around the Everglades. It's called the Lake Belt, on the excuse that they were going to save water for the Everglades, but it was really polluted. So they just wanted to do mining. Okay, so they were sued by one of the environmental groups. And the strategy of the company was, as long as we haven't gotten a decree that we really violated the law, because there's, and I was on the case, right? It took them a year to resolve it. They said
Right.
every day that we could put the decision off, we're making money. So they went on vacation and they had all kinds of interventions. They drew it out, which was good for the lawyers because they made more money. But the idea was not to stop a possible violation because there was too much profit in it.
Right.
Like not to do testing on the vaccines because you might lose a lot of money. Just let's distribute it to people.
Uh-huh. They do that, and I know in advertising, they do a lot of advertising that's they're going to get sued later, but they say it's so worth it. It's just, they'll make a statement that's not correct or something, and then they get sued. But he says, so what? It doesn't matter.
Well,
meanwhile, we got the message out.
Right. And in people's minds, right, that this is good for your teeth, good for your eyes.
Right.
So the whole Ralph Nader thing is they had discovered that within the Corvair there was a defect that would blow up the car.
Uh-huh.
And the companies knew that in advance, but they figured the loss of life and the lawsuits would not be worth redesigning the car.
Uh-huh.
We have to do the whole tooling of the machines and all that stuff. Let go and we get sued, it's all right.
Uh-huh.
We did cost benefit analysis of it, right? As opposed to just stopping it and fixing it.
Right.
Right. Well, then that was the beginning of the movement, the consumer movement. He used the $1 million he won from the lawsuit, to start Nader's Raiders, which was a group. What was that?
Yeah, what is that? What is that?
On every college campus, it was kind of a shliach type thing. On the college campuses, he founded groups that would investigate different consumer practices. And he put in the seed money for them. And they lived very frugally, like only black telephones, dial phones, nothing fancy. And they would investigate different products that were produced in that area that these people would complain about and never get any resolution. That was called Nader's Raiders. Right. And then they would bring it to the courts.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, any thoughts about the use value, exchange value issue that we had the other day?
Right.
But that, by the way, the title of the book should be Maimonides is the antidote to Marx.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because what the Rambam does is, I think, put God is in everything, and these are the rules. Here's 16 volumes of the rules. And Marx is, there's no God, and here's the labor that is the cause and the God of everything.
Right.
And he rewrites all of ethics.
So there was a sikha where it was about the two Jews that were fighting. Moshe sees them.
You're right.
And he says to the wicked one, why do you hit your friend?
Right.
And the Gemara says that he raised his hand to hit him. He didn't actually hit him. So the question was, why is he called the wicked one if he didn't do anything wrong? And the Rebbe explained that, well, he used his hand for something that it wasn't created for. Already it wasn't the effect of it. It was the purpose of the hand. It was it's the value that it has as being created for a certain purpose. Not that it did something wrong to someone else. It did something wrong to its own self. You follow?
Right. Yeah.
That means that it has a inherent purpose, regardless, just because it exists, regardless of what everyone else is going to get from it and what, the good that it could do or the bad. That's not part of it. It was created, and therefore it has a purpose. Now, yeah. So the problem starts before anyone else benefits or loses.
Huh. So that's the use value you're talking about.
I'm saying that there's more than just the value to everyone else. There's the value to itself. Let's say someone hits someone else, like in this case. Two things you could tell him. One is, look at you hit him. Look, he's suffering now. You hurt him. The other thing is, your hand is not made to be hitting people. Your hand is made for a different purpose.
Right. So that's you're saying there's a dispute of the use value. Like this mouth was created to study Torah, not to curse.
Right.
Or to say silly things. It's a lie.
Right. I'm trying to you said that there's a God value. Besides for its exchange value or use value. I'm trying to say that there was an intent that was made in this being created. That's what I'm trying to.
Intent in its creation. Okay. So if I create a virus as a bio weapon, right? That's a negative, super negative. And
right.
I being the chemist, right, or the guys working over there,
right,
the DNA specialists, as opposed to creating a golem to protect the city.
Right.
So that's the use value in its creation, whether it's used to draw water or used to.
Whether it actually creates the virus, this fellow, or whether he creates the golem, but what he was doing along the way is also value. There's also it's not only the outcome, it's what it's doing the whole time, because it has its own purpose, or he has his own purpose. Was he working towards that?
You say what's doing along the way. Is that you mean in the
before
process?
It gets to in the process.
Yeah. Okay. So in modern day, the only thing that matters is the bottom line. You're saying that the middle lines matter.
Right.
Or the purposes that are involved in that as well. Yeah.
Right. Because if you're looking at the use value or all of that, so then you need the bottom line. But if you're looking at the reason why it was created, then the bottom line is just the way of getting. Those are just destinations, but the process is significant.
Oh, you're telling me I can't become a multimillionaire by stealing and corruption and all this other stuff. That's not what the legal profession was created for.
Right.
Right. To justify or to figure out how I could get away with it without paying any taxes or move property into my domain. This is complicated. That's good. So if you put God back into every one of those equations, you have a different society.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great
Shabbos. Okay. Good night.
See you.